Back in the year 1999, I can vividly remember being a 12-year-old kid stumbling upon a newspaper stand trying to spend some of my lunch money on a gaming magazine. Usual deal, you know. Not any household had a PC, let alone one equipped with a 56K modem, so I can hang on the internet. So, buying a magazine was the only way to learn about new games. My eyeballs got fixated on this new magazine that I had never seen before. Turns out that this magazine was a domestic, translated version of official UK PlayStation magazine starring this bad boy. Big ass tank from a little game called Quake II. All I know is that I wanted to play Quake II so bad, but I couldn't since I didn't have the PC to do it. But wait a second, Quake II on a PS1? Are you for real? Of course I bought a magazine and I was soaking up all of the information about the game, waiting eagerly for the release date. According to all the information, pictures and everything, the game ticked all of the boxes to be at least a decent port. And since I didn't really care, I knew I was going to play it one way or another. But as we all know, Quake 2 wasn't just a decent port of the famous PC game, it was a damn miracle. Hardware such as PlayStation 1 that it's become so old in comparison to the moderate powered PCs in the year 1999 to be able to pull such a demanding game? The question bears repeating. Quake 2 on the actual PS1? How is that even possible? Okay, maybe I was too harsh to call PlayStation 1 too old by the year 1999, but remember, we are talking about the tech from the year 1994. The console with specs like 33 MHz RASC CPU, 2 MB of RAM, 1 MB of ReRAM, lack of Z buffer capabilities and very low precision of polygons as vertex using integer instead of floating points, which is responsible for jittery and shaky textures that we all know and love. Doesn't sound like a proper machine for running a demanding FPS game that was pushing the envelope in its time. But unlike today when developers are unfortunately showering us with lazy, unoptimized messes of ports hoping that we will come down for the next half a year when we get numerous patches, back then they couldn't afford such mishaps, especially in a closed system such as PS1. You either do it right or you don't. Once the game is released, you cannot fix it with updated versions. Such a thing doesn't exist. Quake 2 is natively running on PC using John Carmack's updated engine, id Tech 2, that was highly sophisticated for its time. I think I'm right in saying that almost every single FPS from the era sourced this engine for their games, which goes to show how good it was. Here are a number of games that are powered by it. Impressive, huh? However, there's not a snowball chance in hell that PS1 could run this engine, so there was only one solution to do. Hire a developer skilled enough to recreate the game in another engine, an engine that PS1 can actually run. Here comes Johnny, Hammerhead, a relatively young studio set up by people coming from the UK developer company called Traveller's Tales, even though they honed their skills by developing Shadow Master. Great visual example of an FPS game on the PS1 with lackluster gameplay. Quake 2 is a much bigger fish to fry, unless you have a different approach in development. Instead of giving in to everybody who claimed that porting Quake 2 on the PS1 was not possible, Hammerhead insisted they could do it if they utilize all the strengths and familiarize themselves with all the weaknesses that PS1 has. That means that the resolution will be just 512 by 240 pixels, but the FPS counter must be always centered around the number 30 at all costs. This also means that the texture should be simplified as much as possible without making the game look like garbage. You know, it needs to be faithful to the PC version as much as it's allowed to be. Also, Quake 2 being a corridor shooter most of the time helps them place loadings between sets of doors which are unfortunately required due to the limitations of PS1 memory capacity. These loadings are not long, so they don't break the immersion luckily. But you'll notice that there's plenty of them in this game. Levels are scaled down with at least half of the parts cut out to meet the desired requirements. I think the developers at Hammerhead wanted to use the levels that are not so open to prevent any pop-in, slowdown or using the fog to cover the drawing distance. But at the same time, they wanted to connect them in a way that they still make sense story-wise. Now let's talk about the controls. Since the PS1 gamepad has significantly less buttons than keyboard keys, there's also some compromises done in this department as well. For example, crouching is done automatically. Every time you approach a narrow lower space, your guy ducks down and that's it. That's completely seamless in such a way that when I play the PC version of the game, I tend to forget that I actually need to press a button to crouch. Layout of the controls themselves is a bit clunky. Too bad it's not possible to have a modern dual analog stick action, because DualShock became standard in the year 1999. Alien Resurrection is the game that got it right though. This means that you will not have a fast-paced action like you will get by using mouse and keyboard. Unless... yes, you can use the PlayStation mouse to play the game. It actually exists and you can use it in a game other than Civilization 2. It makes targeting a bit easier, but not by a big margin. The Counter the problem, there's an option to automatically center the crosshair after you walk for a second, which also makes the things easier. You don't need to reposition it manually. Collecting power-ups on sight, like an adrenaline, max health, quad damage, invulnerability or hazmat suit automatically starts their usage. There's no way to involve a little bit of strategy so you can, for example, collect quad damage and use it in a place where you know you'll run into a swarm of tough enemies. It's a bit of a shame, I'm afraid, but like I said before, a gamepad has only so many buttons you can use. The visuals. Even though the textures are simplified, the game itself actually looks better than the PC version. Yes, there, I've said it. The wizards at Hammerhead have incorporated more colors, better contrast and some clever lighting system that makes everything look more modern, more industrialized, which is something that was probably desired. Just check this comparison of the same areas in the PS1 and PC version. Yes, PC version has more details and looks sharper, but when it comes to overall aesthetics, PS1 wins the round for me. You can argue all you want, but it's my preference, even though the graphics in the PC remaster are a bit better now, so yeah. FPS is consistent most of the time. The only drops are the ones induced by massive carnage of many enemies on the screen, or if you get BFG 10K and fire it towards a number of strokes. Big green blob casting numerous green rays can be demanding for the PS1, but still, nothing to be concerned about. I expect it to happen, so I'm quite alright to witness some stutters. But what surprises me that Quake II is capable of running 4-player split-screen multiplayer mode without trouble. Yes, it has even less details in the visual department and the levels are short, but still, it's an impressive feat. Just check this out. Well, it feels and plays like a proper Quake, there's no denying that. Gunplay, movement and all that is downright identical to the PC version, so the only differing part is you and your ability to adapt to the gamepad scheme. Since it has been quite a while since I was playing the game, you can notice me playing at a slower pace. It takes quite a while for my rusty neurons to fire up my thumbs and rest of the fingers to press buttons in sync. But to get by, you can rely on the enemy's lousy artificial intelligence. Even though it was decent in the year 1997 or 1999, nowadays it's very archaic and predictable. Most of them are so stupid that they cannot open the door, so doors can act as shields as you circle your arsenal of weapons to find a proper one to continue the fight. Various pillars can also serve as points of playing hide and seek with enemies, so you can strafe out, shoot them, strafe in to hide and repeat the process until they're done. Being scaled down, this version of Quake II has only 20 levels grouped in 5 missions, which makes the game possible to beat in like 3 hours? That means that some of the enemies will be absent. Here's the list of them because I'm too lazy to spell them all out. But the PS1 version of Quake II actually has 2 exclusive enemies. First one to encounter in the level torture chambers is this spider-like bastard called Arachnid. He can take a lot of damage and he has like 2 railgun arms, which means, yeah, you get it. You better run as he fires 2 consecutive blue-colored spiral shots towards you. Another new enemy is called Guardian, and he's the boss in the level called the Gravity Booster. He can also take a lot of damage, but he's slow, so it's easy to avoid his attacks. It's actually kind of pathetic for a mechanical creature of this size to be so slow and easy to kill. Even this fighting area is exclusive to PS1 only, while the rest of the level is vaguely based on the PC level called Big Gun. Even though I refrain from letting it kick your speaker's ass because of the copyright issues, you know that this version of Quake II is also graced with one of the best soundtracks of all time. Yes, we are talking about Sonic Mayhem and one of the best selection of groove industrial metal tunes. It just makes the whole experience 10,000,000% better. You'll have to take my word for it. You can find the entire soundtracks here on this very YouTube, but don't listen to it while driving, because with great certainty I can guarantee a plus 50% increase of self-proclaimed driving skills and many tickets to pay as you get pulled over or you trigger a speeding camera. The only downside in the PS1 version is that the songs change with each loading you encounter, and since the doors with loadings are very frequent due to memory limitations, you might find yourself just preparing to grace your ears to the best part of the song you like, and then boom, loading. Here comes another song. Well, that's not fun. Yeah, songs can be longer than your playthroughs between loading doors, which is a shame, but it's understandable. It's all nice and cool, you might think. I'd like to play the game, but I don't want to deal with the arcade control scheme or a console. I'd like to play it on a PC. Can I do something about it? Well, in fact, yes you can, but you need to obtain the regular Quake II for the PC. I happen to have one with the enhanced graphics, the Reckoning and Ground Zero expansions. It also contains a new expansion called Call of the Machine, and would you believe it? Quake II N64, which is a totally different game with unique sets of levels and stuff, but the PS1 version is nowhere to be seen. Damn. So there's no way after all. Are you just wasting my time? Just kidding. Hey, hear me out. October 5 last year saw the release of a mod called Quake II PSX, in which the entire game was recreated one-to-one to be playable on PC. Oh yes, with a bit of tinkering, you can play this version in all of its glory using mouse and keyboard while having remastered visuals. As you can see, the game feels much faster when you can utilize the proper peripherals to play. It doesn't stop there. This mod adopts the enemy's behavior from the PC version of the game, which makes their AI a bit better. As you can see, they can open the doors now and run all the way towards you. Sometimes they'll duck down when you try to shoot them, especially fast enemies like gunners. Sometimes they'll stop shooting or shoot with a delay if you hide behind the wall, so they can shoot you if you uncover yourself. Sometimes they'll shoot more ammo than usual. For example, tank can shoot 3 rounds of blaster shot 2 times immediately. This stupid spider asshole can shoot his railgun 3 times in a rapid succession instead of 2. Gunners can sometimes shoot just 1 grenade to provoke you and then shoot more afterwards. However, the biggest change has happened to the berserker that can now do a big long leaps to get you. You cannot even have the time to properly look around because he just jumps out of nowhere to slice you. See what I mean? From one of the more useless enemies to one who is very competent in kicking your ass. What a change. Okay, I lied. The actual biggest change is the boss battle with the Guardian in Gravity Booster, since he was too easy in the PS1 version. Now that has been reworked in this mode. This time you need to press some switches to get the key, and after you do, he appears in the middle of the room as usual. This time he has a big red line representing his health, and he is much more agile this time. To add insult to injury, pillars can now be destroyed, so you cannot hide behind them to avoid enemy fire for so long. And to ramp up the difficulty a bit more, lots of regular enemies can spawn during the battle to distract you from fighting the Guardian. The other change is that this usually unbreakable glass can now break when fighting Hornet. I guess shooting too many rockets can do that and kill you as well in the process. What a pathetic loser. However, I don't think it's possible to break it in the original. I know I've never experienced it. Other subtle changes are now the correction of the difficulty settings. Some of the levels have incorrect difficulty setup. Easier difficulties would have more enemy spawns and so on. In this mod, everything is corrected, which is a nice touch. The creator was thinking about everything, so I'm quite impressed. I just hope that someday this mod will officially be included in the main game with the rest of the stuff. That would make it all a super total mega definitive version if you ask me. So, I don't think I have anything special to conclude this time. It's a miracle port of the great game, and that's pretty much it. It's just a reminder that the great ports of supposedly unfit systems can work if you approach the problem from all the possible aspects. Quake II PS1 version is still very much playable even today, so if you have a chance, go ahead and play it. If you don't want to do it, you can always install the PSX mod for the PC version to have the ultimate experience right there. Even though some might say, well, why don't you just play the PC version since the PS1 version is just a watered down PC version in the first place? Well, I don't know. It has a certain charm to it that cannot be easily explained today. I guess you would just have to be there when it was relevant. I don't know, maybe I'm just talking rubbish once again. But hey, I hope you like this video, and if you do, give it a thumbs up, sub for more content, and until next time, see ya!